Well, let's move on now because the great Aussie dream is slipping further out of reach for first home buyers, with 2/3 of young people giving up on home ownership. House prices are sky high across the country, up 8.1% in 2023. Migration is another factor. Australia's immigration intake hit record numbers in January, despite Albo telling us he would slow down the surge in new arrivals. The LNP is calling for immigration to be reduced until Australia can supply enough houses to meet demand. Already first home buyers are at their lowest levels in over a decade, while approvals are at 20-year lows. Houses just aren't being built. While the aspiration for home ownership among our youth is there, turning that ambition into reality is proving just too difficult. It has some asking, is there merit in just renting? Some economists say a life without debt from mortgage is now the way to go. Our second question for the jury: should young Aussies give up the dream of owning their own home? Joining us now is Freya Leach, Director of the Centre for Youth Policy, and Emily Dye, Policy Analyst at the Centre for Independent Studies. Hello to you both. Thank you for joining us on the panel this evening. Emily, why should people right now give up on owning their own home?
Well, I mean, I do think it is a bit of an individual decision, but I cannot blame the many young people that have just given up. We see in the last 20 years, it was 43% of 20 to 29-year-olds that were buying a home, that had a home. And now it's only 36%. So we can see those trends that are going in the negative way. For a boomer buying a house, it took 2 years to save for a 20% more deposit on that home. Now it's 5.5 years for a household. So that's not a single millennial. That would be a household. And those numbers are just getting worse. So for Gen Z, it's looking a lot more dire. So until we can start putting in some real policy changes, I think it's a very rational decision for someone that is young to say, hey, I'm going to take this $50,000 that I've been saving for a house and actually decide to live my life, because it's going to take me $200,000 to get that deposit for my $1 million home.
And it's taken 5.5 years,
which
as you said, which is a long time. That's a very long time. Freya, the statistics they're shocking, as we've just heard. But do you really think there is a chance of being able to break into the market?
I do think it's really hard for first home buyers at the moment. I'm actually one of them. I'm looking to buy my first apartment, and it is incredibly difficult. So I have this first-hand experience. But I think the question, should young people give up on buying their own home? I just don't think we should, because there are so many benefits that come with home ownership. It gives you that security to settle down, to start a family. It gives you security in retirement as well. The long-term financial and personal benefits of home ownership are immense, and I think it's something we should continue to strive after as a result. But I do agree it is really difficult at the moment, and that's why I think the government has a responsibility to put the correct policy settings in place that allow young people to continue to have that aspiration.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we'll look at the factors. Obviously, house prices are at all-time highs, as we said. Immigration, the rate is up. It's up at about 60% over the last 12 months. We just found that out the other day. Is that part of the policy planning? Do we need to bring down the rate? Is it squeezing young people out of the market?
I think that's a bit of a misnomer, the idea that we can just cut immigration and then it'll suddenly fix the housing crisis. Immigrants aren't the cause of the housing crisis, and cutting immigration isn't the fix. It's like saying grocery prices are super high, so everyone should go on a diet in order to fix the grocery price problem. Cutting immigration would just be putting our economy essentially on a diet and would be restricting that those real earnings. A lot of people are saying that immigration is like this Ponzi scheme, but the real Ponzi scheme, to be honest, is the housing market. You've got houses that are going up in price, and it's not real value. It's this arbitrary value that's been created by a restriction of the supply by state governments and particularly by council governments that aren't making those approvals, by density regulations. 78% of the area around Sydney and the cities in New South Wales are zoned for single-family only homes. So that's taking up a lot of land that could be used to house a lot more people, and we're just not doing it because people don't like the look of skyscrapers or don't like the look of a mid-density apartment block.
Yeah, okay. Well, that's a fair comment. But do you think that immigration is having an impact on being able to enter the market right now?
Whenever you look at prices, there are two sides to the equation. There's the supply side and there's also the demand side. And it's reductive to just look at one and blame that entirely. So I agree, Emily, you make a great point about housing supply. I'm a YIMBY. I think build more houses, let's do it. Put it in my backyard. I support that 100%. But at the same time, I don't think we can ignore the reality that our migration levels are the highest we've ever seen, while approvals are at a decade low. So for every one house we are currently building, we are getting 4 new migrants. So the math, I don't know how the math on that's going to work.
I'm going to butt in and say immigration isn't actually at that high level that everyone thinks it is. We are having a backup of immigrants. We tried the experiment. We ran the experiment during COVID. We cut immigration. We said borders closed. And what happened? Housing prices went up by 20% in the most dramatic increase we've ever seen. And it shows that we're now just doing a catch-up situation.
Yes, but
we're not actually